Thousands of students march on the union buildings as the president meets university bosses and student leaders.
Extra police deployed as some protesters tried to break down a barrier at the union buildings.
And students in major cities around the world plan protests in solidarity with the Fees Must Fall campaign. It's 1 o'clock, it's Friday. This is Newsday. I'm Andrew Barnes.
And I'm Michelle Craig. Thanks for joining us. We're with you until 4 o'clock.
It's Fees Must Fall. It's the big story of the day. It's all happening at the union buildings. We're going to hand you over to ENCA for rolling coverage of the situation there.
Of this fence that has been really separating them from the officials this morning. Iman, I'm going to give you an opportunity to get out of the line of danger. I'm going to ask you to take a step back and perhaps move to somewhere a little bit safer from where you are now, especially given the fact that the students have been able to create an entry point, as it were. We're seeing police take a few steps back, rocks flying over them as they continue to watch this situation. Iman Rapetu, of course, is bringing us the latest from this point of the protest. What we're hearing from other parts of where this protest is that police nyalas have been seen making their way onto this property. That was by Nontobeko CVC just a couple of minutes ago. Reporter Bongiwe Kumalo is also monitoring this march. Of course, she's on the other side of the march with a group of protesters. Bongi, a lot of tension in the front. What are you seeing from your vantage point?
Well, Kathy, right now, as you can see, students are running away from the direction of the union buildings. Quite a lot of them have been telling us, just as we waited here, that they want the president to come and address them. And just not far from where I am, there is a group that is trying to set, it looks like remains of an old car already. And those remains still have tires on them, and they're trying to set them on fire. If I can just ask, what is your sentiment of what is happening right now?
No, these people don't respect us, no. So we want to increase. We want free education.
Well, Kathy, as you can see, quite a lot of tensions here. A lot of people coming saying that fees must fall, saying that the president must come and address them. And there's quite a lot of tension, as I would put it, here at the back as well, because police are also trying to disperse those that are protesting on the street, those that are trying to set some tires alight. There's quite a lot of cat and mouse games here being played at the back as police officers are trying to block those that are trying to start fires, those that are trying to march through the streets that are adjacent to the union buildings. Now there's quite a lot that has been happening, especially when it comes to the students making their way down and just running away, not sure what exactly they were running away from. And as you heard the sound just a short while ago, that's when they all started running again. And what we have been seeing from where we come from at Burgers Park, a lot of students saying that they do not want talks to be held behind closed doors. They want the president to come and address them. They want anyone from that meeting to come out and talk to them really and tell them what is really going on and give them the answers that they are looking for, because part of what they have been saying this week, especially at Wits, where we spent a great deal of our time this week, they have been coming out saying that these meetings are being held behind closed doors, away from them, and they want a public engagement with the Wits Council as well as Wits management, and if the minister at all could also come to them and address them as well. So those are some of the things that we have been hearing all week as they have been preparing for this day to come to the union buildings.
Bongi, I'm going to give you an opportunity, if you may, to speak to some of those students, particularly around the threat that now exists of this march becoming violent. Let's get their views.
Okay. Now, can I just ask you, how do you feel now? We've just seen police officers moving in. They're trying to control the situation, and here at the back as well, there's been police officers trying to make sure that those that are trying to protest can't. How do you feel right now about the safety that seems to be a concern for you guys?
It's so much unprivileged for all of us, because now it's all harmful for all of us, because we came here to listen to Zuma and Blade to give us the 0% interest of all the fees, because fees must fall, on which you are here because of fees must fall.
And now, if I can just ask that you bear with us as we interact, what is it that you're hoping is going to come out of that meeting as you are waiting here, as you are prepared to wait through whatever situation that is unfolding right now?
All we want is 0%. That's all we want to say.
That's what we want. We want 0%. That's what we want from Zuma.
Okay, guys, I'm going to ask that one person speak at a time. We cannot all be able to hear a lot of people speaking. Now, if I may ask right now, we just heard a sound coming from up there, and you guys just came running, from up there because you were right at the top. Why did you run? How are you feeling right now when it comes to what is happening right there?
They were feeling threatened because they heard gunshots and all that, and the police are trying to threaten us. All that we want to hear is Zuma telling us that there's a 0% increment. That's all that we want to hear, not the violence and all that. We don't want violence here.
And what police are trying to do, I mean, just not far from where we are, some of the students that you are marching with are also trying to start a fire from an old truck that is on the road just to block the road. And there has been calls by the leaders, repeated calls for calm, repeated calls for no violence as you're marching to the union buildings today. What is the sentiment now? Because things are seemingly unpredictable and seemingly police have their hands full.
I think that all that we need is just the 0%. That's why we came here. We wouldn't have came here if it wasn't for the 0% that we were looking for.
Okay. And what do you have to say to those that right now are trying to start fires on the road? Because that is also likely to exacerbate the situation.
It's really unnecessary for all the violence. From the beginning, we said this is going to be a non-violent strike. So I don't understand why all of a sudden we're trying to be all violent, because this thing is very simple. We made it clear from the start that we want 0% from the government for education. Our fellow students here were making examples for the grants. Each and every year, annually, there's an increment. But what about the education?
Okay,
that we have in our picture, these are visuals at the front of the march. This is, of course, where an opening has been created by students in this palisade fencing that's there. Water cannon being dispersed, firstly to put out the fires that have been started by students, and now just driving around to try and disperse the crowd that had been backed up literally against this fence just a couple of minutes ago. Students, as you're watching, they're running in all different kind of directions. Of course, the picture Bongyo Kumalo was giving us is from the other side of the lawns, and they don't really have a perspective of what's happening here right on the doorstep of the union buildings. Iman Rapeti is stationed for us on this side of the lawns, and certainly police now looking like they're employing another mechanism and another strategy in terms of handling this crowd that we've watched become increasingly restless as the morning's events have unfolded. Ongoing calls for there to be some kind of direction around what the program.
My family and I have been asked to make this Kellogg's cornflakes ad like they did back in the day. You know, the ones with the rising sun and rainbow mornings. Mornings are war, but because these are delicious, they create this togetherness. This is my Kellogg's cornflakes family.
The same hotel, the same room, but two different prices. Why pay more? Trivago instantly compares more than 150 different websites to find your ideal hotel for the best price. Hotel Trivago.
When you choose Stimmerol, you feel in the zone and able to think on your feet. Warning, you'll want to chew again and again. Pick up the refreshing habit.
Today only. Up to 50% off on selected products. Don't miss ShopRite's biggest savings promotion. Big Red Friday. Don't miss out on low prices like you've never seen before. Friday, 23 October, only while stocks last, so get there early. Only at ShopRite.
Stand up. Today is your day. Now take a step on forward and get on your way. You know, the world's just waiting to meet you today.
With you on your journey. Gen. With us, you are number one.
Light up the room with Aquafresh High Definition White. With millions of Illuma pearls that give you up to 1, 2, 3 times whitening effect. Bring on Saturday night. Aquafresh High Definition White. Yeah.
Burnt at this stage. Police are also just still trying to make sure that they contain the situation as much as possible, and you can see that the fire is coming very closely from where the mobile toilets are located, and there has been mobile toilets in order for the students, when they make their way here to this to the Union Building lawns, they can be able to access them. But right now you can see that there is fire coming from that direction. We are hoping to be able to move closer to it at some point in order for us to be able to bring you a clearer picture of what exactly is happening there. And if, as you can see, some of them just waiting in anticipation to hear what exactly is going to happen, to hear what exactly, if the president at all is going to walk out of the meeting and address them, or if the higher education minister is going to address them at all.
We're going to pick up with you again in a moment, so do stay on the line. Let's take you to the front of where part of all of this is unfolding, at least where we've seen the highest level of tension. Iman Rapeti. Iman, quite a bit happening in the last couple of minutes where you are, where we've seen police use a water cannon to try and also handle that crowd.
Yeah, and when you saw that happen, Kathy, really a sense of concern that, you know, no one gets caught up, run over, falling off that truck as you watched it, you know, tear across the field at the bottom. You know, in the front line, just here where we're showing you a picture now where the fence has been breached, you will see earlier on, a few moments ago, and you might have had picture of that, might have had sight of those visuals, some of the other students coming around and saying, you know, chanting peace, 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 but they were quickly shut down. It's, you don't get a sense, certainly from my perspective, and I don't know what Bongi and the other reporters are saying, but from my perspective, that there is one person that's leading the group right now insofar as what we're seeing here, dictating the movement of students insofar as whether to move ahead or to retreat. So we haven't seen anyone, either on a loud hailer from my position, say, you know, students, here's the plan of action and this is what we need to do. Or we continue to hear and see, you know, the missiles and rocks being thrown at the riot police. There's a bank of them on either side of our position right now. And, you know, it's unfortunate we've also had to take cover, but it is quite dangerous where we're standing. There are large rocks coming over the fence and, you know, all sorts of missiles and so on. So, you know, the situation is volatile. It is unstable.
Iman, as you're speaking, we're also getting word of some of those mobile toilets that have been distributed, some of them being set alight by the students there. What they are calling for is urgency on this matter. Is there a sense of the kind of urgency that they need, especially when we look at the response that we did get from the executive, from members of the executive that addressed them a short while ago?
Again, not the greatest reception, but the State Security Minister came down. You're hearing, of course, some stun grenades being set off. David Mahlobo coming down. Not a great reception, perhaps a little frosty, even borderline hostile reception from the students. They don't want to hear from anyone else but the president. They want to hear that there is a resolution. They want to hear that there is a way forward. And so that demand remains for someone to come down, in fact, not just anyone to come down, for the president himself to come down. I'm not sure insofar as, security requirements are concerned, whether the president's security detail will allow that because of the breach in the fence and, the unpredictability of what might happen. But it seems, just judging from the people we spoke to, that might be, the only thing that they want to hear right now is what the president has to say.
And we're seeing more of those stun grenades being engaged in terms of keeping them away from this fence. Speak to us about the kind of response that we're watching from police, Iman. Has there been enough capacity been called to the grounds, especially where you are?
Again, if I just go on a pure poll, demeanor poll, they seem to be calm. They seem to be standing back. Of course, we saw the water cannon being deployed. We're seeing stun grenades, being set off at various points. I'm not sure whether there's a plan to escalate that, but they certainly seem to be, well, for want of a better word, cautiously, cautiously vigilant. And that's really all I can say about the police response. But what's happening, and again, just judging purely by the picture and the vantage point we have, which is not the entire full picture, is that every time a stun grenade goes off or every time there is some kind of response to the crowd and the stone throwing, it seems to really, rile them up and fire them up again. And so there are these waves of aggression and then waves of passivity and then waves of aggression again. If this is, again, going to be a test of the executive leadership and so on, they, I suppose, to paraphrase the students, are going to have to do a bit better than what they've seen. Bear in mind, it's several hours on. I'm sure the heat and the dehydration must also be playing a role in, in the level of tension.
Well, it does seem to be becoming an increasingly volatile situation there. Watching these rocks, Iman, who or what is the target?
It's the end of the year! We've made it!
Castle lights.
Stop it!
Castle Light presents the Republic of Extra Cold. Extra Cold refreshment is best enjoyed responsibly.
Ladies and gentlemen, I know y'all ready for this. Come on now. We got a new honey in the street. Kick fast, blast fast with a new beat. Huh. You got a feeling for the go. Take your dread, have it set in the new O. And I'm feeling pretty style. Hit the pedal and understand a new wow. I'm in the flow. Riding high, flying low in a Cosmo.
Get the Opel Corsa Essentia with premium class innovations from just 179,500.
Thank you.
Exe, how's Bali, Sacho?
Love is expensive, bro.
What
I need is another job.
Hey, la. What you need is to walk away. The girl should love you for who you are, not what you have.
You have a beautiful heart, my boy. Here, have some more of EA's.
This guy.
Ace, when you need a mum's love.
Pep has the lowest price in South Africa on cell phones. Like the ZTE Switch X1 on MTN, exclusive to Pep, with WhatsApp, Facebook, and a free 4GB SD card, all for only $3.99. Better hurry before it's gone. Then free up more memory on your device with the SanDisk 8GB micro SD card for only 69 Rand. That's the lowest price in South Africa. Only at Pep and Pepcell. Best prices and more.
Are mosquitoes driving you crazy? Raid Liquid Electric, now proven to kill even hidden mosquitoes.
Raid!
Turn on Raid Liquid Electric and turn your lamp off for good. Raid Liquid Electric, SC Johnson, a family company.
Fasten and fix it with Eureka. Eureka has a rivet for general use, a large flange rivet for extra grip, and a closed rivet for watertight roofing joints. The peeled rivet is for fastening soft materials to hard materials, plus this countersunk rivet for hinges. Drill holes through both surfaces, insert the rivet and squeeze the rivet gun until the pin snaps off. It's the ideal way for an inexpensive professional finish. Eureka, you've got it.
Student body, again, is something else. I can't show you a picture of this, but the Gauteng Police Commissioner, I'm told, is now heading towards the area where we are. And I imagine to get a visual operational update on what's happening here on the ground. We will try and see if we can get into an interview with him. But for now, that's how the situation remains, Kathy. Police have been deployed, they're maintaining a distance, and the situation, as I keep saying, and I know that people are going to get bored of this word, but unpredictable.
And we're seeing him in picture right behind the police officers in riot gear, Gauteng Police Commissioner Lesetja Mothiba. And of course, we'll wait to hear whether or not he'll be making a statement to those that, especially to journalists that are gathered there around, how exactly they intend on handling operations throughout the rest of the day. Iman, today is also about the numbers, and certainly a lot can be said around how students are grouping themselves, and that what we are seeing forms, as we've heard, a very small fraction of the collective that's there outside the union buildings.
Again, it's very hard to find out who belongs where. If you're going to do that purely based on T-shirts, it will be hard. It will be hard to make a proper, intelligent, and more importantly, accurate assessment of that. All of the groups kind of intermingle and move away. They're in a collective and then they're dispersed. So it's, it depends on who happens to be in a particular position. I mentioned earlier, large portions of the group, particularly those around the trees, were calm. Some were sitting down. Some others were marching around the lawns themselves, around the south lawns. They were, in fact, not just marching, sort of a short run. And then yet others were focused on this fence, wanting to tear it down. Once that happened, we didn't see a mass of students charge across to get across this area towards the union building. So perhaps it was just it was a threat of this is kind of what we're contemplating and this is what we're thinking about, but it didn't actually follow through by way of a mass of students coming across. I know that some students did try, but the invitation wasn't bought by some of the others. So by and large, there seems to be a collective consensus that we'll stay on that side. We'll stay on that side of the fence, despite the fact that we've torn it down.
Iman, in our picture right now, we're watching the Gauteng Police Commissioner Lesetja Mothiba. He's in the center of a couple of officers. They're briefing him on this situation. And of course, they're also having to protect themselves from these rocks that are being pelted from the ground. Further up the stairs, we're seeing people in uniform. I'm not sure whether that's the SANDF. Are you able to give us clarity on whether or not, on who exactly those security personnel are?
Yeah, we did query the uniform earlier on, and we were told that's the VIP protection unit. The situation it's fairly dangerous out here where we're standing, Kathy, because the rocks that are coming across, they're quite substantial. We saw, one of the other journalists get hit on the head, and, he was bleeding profusely. I'm not sure what the extent of his injuries are. Has been taken away, but I think all journalists realize that that's par for the course, being in a situation like this. But there is a very real threat. We've seen bricks come over, like whole bricks come over and take out, not take out necessarily, but really hit some of the police officers in their riot gear, and them retreating and advancing. So what's coming over the fence from students is does pose a serious threat.
And we're also watching from the picture behind this van. It seems to be the other line of security, especially where the rocks are concerned, between the other officers that have been deployed to this march. Iman, give us a bit of perspective of where exactly you are in the context of all that's unfolding here.
I'm right behind our cameraman, so we're less than 10 meters away from, and look, my maths is not the greatest, pardon me. I remember a politician a while ago making jokes about journalists and their ability to count, but several meters, let's say that, from where you see the Gauteng Police Commissioner. And sorry to be startled like that, but even though we've been surrounded by the sound of stun grenades all morning, every time it happens, it really is quite a loud sound, and it's quite jarring, so pardon me for that. But we're a few meters away from where the Gauteng Police Commissioner is, and it seems like he's taking some kind of a briefing, because some of those police officers talking to him were involved in the deployment effort a little bit earlier on. So they were commissioning extra troops or forces or police personnel to come down here, and it seems like they are now briefing the Gauteng Police Commissioner. He's on his phone. I'm not sure what that call would be about, but if he's looking here as a fairly senior member of government, he would probably want to consider that there has to be something else that happens insofar as who interacts with these students, because they are restless. You can see the rocks coming over. We don't know whether that will escalate or whether it will die down, whether it will give way to a new wave of students doing the same, or whether leadership on the ground on the South Lawns will take collective control of the situation and perhaps issue some direction as to what's going to happen next. But from where we're standing, something has got to give. Something new has to happen.
And he certainly does seem to be receiving a briefing. The police videographer also getting involved in that conversation there. They will respond to today, of course, very aware of the fact that whatever step they take, Iman, is likely to be very severely scrutinized.
We mentioned this morning, the various marches that have had their culmination here at the Union buildings, most prolific among them, the pass laws of 1956, the 9th of August, when those 20,000 women descended on the Union buildings, making their stand against the pass laws. Again, in 2015, this is the site of education protests in South Africa. We spoke extensively about how this is a defining moment, and a lot of analysts have weighed in on that debate, a defining moment for South Africa and South Africa's history. When we look at the way various incidents in our history were recorded and, who was caught on the wrong side of that history, that is certainly a philosophical equation the ANC government would want to be on the right side of. They have to manage this in a way that is effective, that shows leadership, that shows an ability to listen. I mean, that was one of the biggest calls by students yesterday, that not only must the leadership and all of those stakeholders listen to the demands or hear the demands of students, but they must also listen, and that listening would be manifest in an implementation of education reform in South Africa, both substantively and quantitatively. So, that the struggles of the various South African families that we've spoken about extensively over the last couple of days are taken into cognizance. Intergenerational poverty, intergenerational debt. These are still the big issues, and one hopes that the events of today, in some ways don't eclipse the bigger debates and the bigger demand for an equitable education system that gives all South Africans access to education.
Iman, earlier as police were advancing towards students, we heard them chant that this is not another Marikana. Watching the police commissioner on the ground, or rather the Gauteng police commissioner that is on the ground this afternoon, certainly it will have to be clear around where exactly the final line of command in terms of responding to the situation today is going to be coming from.
Again, in terms of the operational response from a police point of view, and pardon us, I mean, our cameraman just been struck in the face by a flying rock. So I'm just making sure that he's okay. You okay? Okay, he's fine. Let's move on. We're not sure, barring the presence of the Gauteng Police Commissioner, who else from an executive or police executive will be here. And effectively, Kathy, where the buck stops insofar as decision-making is concerned. We know that was the whole debacle around Marikana. We know that's why there's an investigation that's going to be underway into how things went down, who made the various calls, the meetings that were held, the preparation that was done, the intelligence that was gathered around that to come up with the perfect response, and they failed on that score, which is why there's this investigation. I'm sure that in 2015, and perhaps this has got nothing to do with anything, but it is a pre-election year. The ANC has been one to say that this is not about elections, this is about policy and about the party's commitment to its promises. But it is a pre-election.
Next on SA's Got Talent, the second live semi-final.
Yeah.
will take one step closer to winning R500,000? Watch SA's Got Talent, Sunday at 6 p.m. only on E!
WWE superstars are highly trained professional athletes and entertainers. As such, there should be no attempt to emulate or imitate the content of this program.
Navigating our way through some of the missiles that have been flown across the fence. And of course, you know, that's what it's been. It's been precarious, it's been volatile, bouts of aggression, and then you see the students back off after a shot or two of those stun grenades. But certainly a very precarious, a very volatile situation. Those are live visuals once again outside the union buildings, the fence separating the union buildings from thousands of students who are pushing themselves through, frustrated about not being addressed yet by the president. Live visuals there coming from the union buildings.
Now, staying with the Fees Must Fall campaign, students at the University of Stellenbosch have descended on the campus sports centre as they continue with the protest against fee hikes. Our reporter Vanessa Puna is following those developments there. Good afternoon, Vanessa. What's the latest in Stellenbosch? Good afternoon, Vanessa. What's the latest at Stellenbosch University?
All right, so we can't seem to be getting an audio line to Vanessa, but there you go. Visuals in quite a big contrast to what we've seen in Pretoria there, outside Stellenbosch University. Students sitting down, calm, apparently waiting to be addressed, or I think they are being addressed by one of the student leaders. We were hoping to get Vanessa Puna now to try and find out what's happening there, but let's just stick on this pic for a while and find out what's happening. You're watching visuals there straight out of Stellenbosch University.
That one clause is the one that is protecting all the students in the Western Cape. So the people that we opened the case against, the Speaker of Parliament,
hello,
the Minister of Higher Education.
I didn't drop the line dropped. I don't know what happened.
All right, so we're still in the process of trying to get Vanessa Puna there online. She seems to be almost ready, but quite a contrast to what we've seen in Pretoria, isn't it?
Exactly. I mean, there was so much in Pretoria. We have stun grenades being fired at the students to try and calm them from, you know, setting those temporary toilets alight, which is what we've seen throughout this afternoon since we started with those visuals. And now you look at the students that are at Stellenbosch right now speaking about what happened at Parliament earlier this week and the case that has been brought against Parliament and the police.
Yeah, understandably, the frustrations are different, but I think she's back online. Yeah. Vanessa Puna in Stellenbosch, can you hear us now? And a very, very calm scene compared to Pretoria. What's happening there at the moment?
The last two, so the third and fourth respondent, which is the Minister of Police and the Provincial Commissioner of the South African Police Service in the Western Cape Province. Clause number 2.2 in this document. So basically, just to explain briefly, give you context.
Seems like we're struggling to get a hold of our reporter there. Vanessa, can you hear us now? What's happening there?
So eventually, they agreed to sign. So they signed this document at 5. And we found that...
All right, we seem to still be having problems trying to get an audio connection to Vanessa Puna. She's in front of what appears to be hundreds of students being addressed by the student leader there. And I got a sneak peek to hear what they possibly are talking about. And they mentioned something about an agreement, but I certainly can't confirm exactly what the content of that message was.
It seems like they are speaking about what happened at Parliament earlier this week, where students were protesting outside Parliament, and a lot happened there. Once again, stun grenades were shot at the students, and I think that's what's being discussed at the moment. At this point in time, we've crossed back to the union buildings where we see the Deputy Minister of Higher Education, Duduzi Manana, as well as David Mahlobo there, of the State Security Minister there.
Yeah, so it looks like they are on their way to perhaps address. We're not quite sure. Cameras don't tell us much as to where they're going, but perhaps this might bring some calm to the situation.
It should be able to.
All right, so let's try and get back to Vanessa Puna. She's, of course, at the Stellenbosch University where students are being addressed. Let's see what she has to say, Vanessa.
That blue powder is to mark the
Good afternoon. Yes, a mass meeting is currently underway here at the University of Stellenbosch, where student leaders are addressing hundreds, if not thousands, of students from both University of Stellenbosch as well as UCT that have come out in support of the students' Fees Must Fall campaign. Now, I can tell you that at the moment, in the centre of the circle of the students, we do have Professor Wim de Villiers, University Management, sitting and waiting to address the crowd. The students have been adamant this morning. They have demanded that the University Management speak to them to withdraw a court interdict preventing them from protesting on campus. Now, we do know that there are some sound issues. I think the student leaders are waiting for us to wrap up this crossing, but they have been speaking to their hundreds, if not thousands, of supporters here today to tell them that they are in support of the Fees Must Fall campaign and will continue protesting until the fees drop to 0%.
All right, thanks very much indeed. Vanessa Puna there at the Stellenbosch University. Student leaders addressing a couple of thousands of students outside that university there. That's what's happening in big contrast, as we said earlier, to the rather volatile scenes in Pretoria.
And also interesting to see that at Stellenbosch, the university management is there with the students and they are about to also address the students just to keep them in the loop. And also maybe they might know what's going on in Pretoria, because at this point in time, we haven't heard anything from that meeting with the president and all the other stakeholders. But we did see the minister, the deputy minister of higher education earlier on in the union building, seeming like he's walking towards those students. So we are hoping we'll have something from there right now to see if they will be giving an address to those students.
All right, so before we take another peek as to what's happening in Pretoria, let's catch on the events as far as Port Elizabeth is concerned. Our reporter Lerato is in PE. Lerato, good afternoon. Can you tell me what's happening on your front?
Very good afternoon to you. As you can see behind me, our students who are going to march the City Hall. The plan is actually to go to Vista campus, where they want to disrupt the taking to the legislative people. And right there at the City Hall is Premier Phumla Masualle, and they are going to stand outside City Hall, protest until he comes and addresses them. So you see behind me are tons of students. Early hours this morning, they were burning tires, barricading the entrance to the main campus, and now they're saying they want the VC, the number one cry, I think, Eben, they want all the VC and management to come and address them. And until then, they say they're going to shut down the campus up until the VC comes and addresses them. So right now we are marching to the City Hall, where Premier Phumla Masualle, they're going to protest outside there until he comes on site and speaks to them.
Lerato, I got to ask you, are these students in any way aware of what is happening in Pretoria at the moment?
Speaking to some students, they said that there are what's happening in Pretoria, but their concern now is to sort out issues here at NMU. You know that yesterday they were supposed to meet up with the VC. He didn't meet them. So they're saying that their struggle is intensifying. They are celebrating what's happening in the union buildings by saying that, you know what, as NMU students, they've got struggles as well, and they're fighting for the kids in this campus.
Lerato, there was a call made yesterday that student leaders from across the country would, or should rather, come to the union buildings to meet with the president and other stakeholders. Are you aware of any of the student leaders there who have made it to the union buildings?
Yes, the outgoing president, Mhlomola Buchwa, is actually live. She's actually at Pretoria right now, and she's with the VC, Derek Swart. So we are aware that the president of the SRC at NMU is currently there, Pretoria, in discussions as well.
All right, and before we let you go, Lerato, perhaps just bring us up to date in terms of what is believed to be happening next as far as those students in Port Elizabeth is concerned. It's a march to the Premier's office, and what's their expectations from that point onwards?
If you are aware, right now at the Vista campus, which is also an NMU campus, they're taking the legislators currently happening there. So the original plan was to go there, cause a stand in there, and make sure that Premier Phumla Masualle comes out and addresses them. Then he has heard that they're coming, so he's making his way now to the City Hall. So they're going to go to the City Hall and literally march out there, because they said, you know what, they've got issues here in the Eastern Cape concerning higher education. And as a Premier, he should have some words you can say to them regarding to what's going on currently regarding education.
I've just seen a police vehicle pass behind you a few seconds ago. I don't imagine that the police have a lot to contend with there. There doesn't seem to be any aggressive scenes.
No aggressive scenes at all. Students really just walking in solidarity, in unity, going to the city hall. They want to speak to the premier, and they said they're going to stand their protest. They have vowed to the police they're not going to become violent. Today is not really about being violent. It's really about making sure that the premier speaks to them on behalf of the Eastern Cape students.
Lerato, we'll have to leave it there. Thank you very much for the update. We now go back to the union buildings where, the chaos still continues there. But I think another place where we need to be looking is social media once again, where a lot of tweets have come out. Earlier, even threatening that there might be a lot of chaos there. I see a tweet here from Cheese Overdees who says, Zuma better show his face. There'll be no union buildings if these students wait any longer. And that was at around 12:55. Yeah, and it just brings the point to the surface once again. Had this sort of thing happened 10 years ago, it would have a completely different fabric. And Matiba, perhaps let me just bring you in here. Social media has really changed what this could have been 10 years ago.
It has, and the message spreads very, very quickly. You'll see that as much as there's chaos going on in Pretoria right now, like you said earlier, other universities actually online urging the students in Pretoria to calm down, to try and maintain peace, which is a very good message to send. But then on the other end, you see the blame game coming up, waiting up from everywhere around the country. You see students blaming either political parties, organizations that are there, and so it will be interesting to see where this eventually ends off. But there's a lot of debate going on online right now as to how did this spark, who sparked this, and who should we blame? You see different universities accusing each other online, and yes, some organizations and student bodies trying to calm students down and urging them to maintain peace.
Matiba, we'll leave it there for now. Staying on that story, we cross back to our reporter, Griselda Lewis, who is at the South Lawns at the Union Buildings. Griselda, what's happening now? Seems like we can't get a hold of our reporter Griselda at this point, but looking at those visuals, it seems like it hasn't become any calmer. But I see that the journalists are able to get through a little, because at some point when we spoke to Griselda, she had said that the reporters had moved onto the sides. Yeah, and I'm just been told now that those visuals are just from a while earlier. This was in the morning when students first started gathering outside the union buildings. We seem to have a bit of a mishap with the live feed that's coming through. We'll have that back in a moment. But once again, those visuals a few moments ago. In fact, if I can understand those visuals correctly, I remember seeing that about an hour ago. Yeah. Nothing much has changed. The aggression component is still pretty much there, on and off. So I would imagine that Griselda Lewis, when we do touch base with her, would give us a similar impression in terms of the volatility happening there. Yeah, and a clearer picture of what's happening. But going back to our digital news producer, Matiba, who are speaking about what's happening on social media and what everyone is saying, the blame game. I've also just looked on social media now, and it seems like a lot of people are saying, these kids came there peacefully. They don't know what changed. There was sort of like a quick turnaround, and things just turned very badly. Yeah. On that point, throughout the morning, you look at social media. Matiba, I can confirm this with you. You've had not only national support, but you've had an immense amount of international support. In London, people gathering outside the South African Commission in solidarity with these students. That could have only been possible with the way social media is active at the moment. In the United States, similar scenes of solidarity. It just goes to show what this technology and piece of medium is doing for the support of this call.
Yes, but things change very quickly on social media. In the morning, there was a lot of solidarity, yes, and there were a lot of Americans saying, you know what, Americans need to be more like South Africans, fight for their rights. And right now, that message has kind of changed very quickly, and you find out that, like, what is going on? Please maintain the peace. We don't want to go back to what happened a few years ago. So that's very, very interesting how quickly the message changes. A couple of hours ago, it was be more like South Africans, and now it's what is happening online.
Would you say, in as much as social media is effective, users are quite fickle? Because if they can change their minds so quickly at the drop of a hat, how does it change the effectiveness of pushing the message?
They're very, very fickle. One person believes one thing in the morning, and a couple of hours later, after hearing opinions from different ends, they decide, hey, I think I've changed my mind. And I think, the main the students and students from everywhere, UJ, other institutions, I think they've maintained what they are there for, what they want. Sadly enough, on social media, a lot of this gets lost and the message gets lost somewhere. But I think they've tried to maintain the main message that this is what we want and this is what we're here for. It's very sad that it's turned out this way, but I think the message still remains. And even online, people are saying, listen, remember why we came here. This is the main reason, not for this. Let's not get lost in the reasons that we came here. And it's very easy to get lost when you are online.
Mm-hmm. I suppose still on that point, I got to ask, can we measure whether or not government should have used social media a bit more constructively if they didn't to pass on their communication over this issue?
South Africa, over the last few years, the South African government has been blamed for not using social media as much as they do, because obviously you engage with younger people. Over the last few years, especially last year elections coming now, and it's actually gained momentum, but apparently they are not as engaging. They send out messages and announcements to say, this is what's happening, this is what happens, but they rarely ever answer questions, and that's a lot of problems where people are trying to engage with government online, but all they get is one-way messages going to, this is what's happening, announcement, and that's what social media is about. You know, it's about having the ability to, if you are a student, you should be able to speak to your leader directly online and have him. A few ministers, yes, are very vocal online, but most of them aren't, unfortunately.
We now cross to Sipho Stierman, our reporter. He is with the students in Pretoria. What's the latest on your side?
Well, good afternoon to you. Chaos is running supreme here at the Union buildings. It seems like the purpose of the march, which was to demand for no fee increase, has been completely set aside, as there were crowds that got violent, and they started banning toilets, plastic toilets that were provided here for the students, and they also started to be very aggressive towards media. I was there shooting with my colleague, and then they wanted to grab the camera away from us, and then they also took cameras away from other medias as well. So it got very violent and very scary, particularly for media, as there seemed to be a lot of anger against media. Now, if you look into my left here, some students also got injured. We have emergency services that are there treating those that were injured here in the whole process, because the police had to come in with a water cannon to disperse the crowd and to also put off the fire. So in that state of chaos, people were running all over the place. And that's when people got injured. And we don't have the exact figure, but we know that a couple of the protesters got injured here. And we've got a wide shot. The lawns are still filled by the students, or should I say the protesters, and they're still standing there. But it would seem right now all... And you can also hear that there are those shots being fired there. Some students brought some sort of, I wouldn't call them explosives, but it's like crickets that keep making these sounds and explosions that are coming through. So it really is chaotic out here, and the whole purpose of this has really just fallen apart.
Right, Sipho, we're just looking at your vantage point here. I would imagine the area where we heard these stun grenades, and you could see it over your shoulder when you were at a different vantage point. You're apparently quite far from the fence, isn't it? What is the aggression levels around where you are? I mean, what's the feeling among students? Because I would imagine you were 200 meters away from the fence, are you?
Yes, well, we've actually had to move away from the lawn itself for our own safety. As I mentioned a little bit earlier, that they really were hostile towards media, and for us to be able to do this broadcast in a safe environment, we had to move away. And actually, we are on the road here, on the street here, which has been closed, Stanza Bopape Street, which has been closed off, obviously, by police. That's why we are able to cross on the streets. As this was going on, some students did chant that, no to violence. So this is not a collective representative of students' views, what went down there. Some students expressed disappointment over what has happened here, because now the purpose of this was, of course, to fight for zero increase on the fees. But now we're not talking about the fees, are we? We're talking about the violence. So this has done injustice to the purpose of what was supposed today was supposed to be about.
Sipho, we understand that the State Security Minister had come out to warn the students and telling them to carry on with the peaceful protest that they have been having. Do you think they listened to him? Did they even listen to him, or did they not even give him an opportunity to speak?
They was not given an opportunity whatsoever. At the time when he came through, things have escalated. The students were pushing through the fence. Some officials came on stage to say, calm down. Some other student leaders came through to say, let's keep it peaceful. Let's not lose the end goal here, which is 0% fee increase. But then at that time, things had gone out of control. We had people, I don't want to call them students, because there are suggestions that there are other outside forces who have come through to hijack this protest. And those people, they came through and they just banned everything that was there to ban. They attacked the media, as I mentioned a little bit. So it was just chaotic, and they refused to listen to anyone. I mean, we had a police vehicle here, those water cannon vehicles that were trying to put off the fire. And we had some students who actually, some protesters who actually climbed on top of the moving police water cannon vehicle. So it just shows the state of chaos, and it's as if people lost their minds and they were putting others at risk. Thus, we have visuals like this, people being treated over the incident that took place here.
Sipho Stearman there. He's just outside the Union building, some distance away from that fence separating the police and journalists and those protesting students. Sipho confirming for us there that indeed there had been some injuries already. That's a very sad scenario, isn't it?
That is extremely sad. I mean, you can see that the chaos is all around now. At some point earlier, we could see one part of the Union buildings more peaceful than the other. At this point in time, it looks like outside as well as inside, there's quite a lot of chaos. Now, for more on that story, we are going to cross to our reporter, Griselda Lewis, who is also at the Union buildings.
I believe she's still preparing herself to cross to us. But I mean, let's go back to what Sipho had told us moments ago. Again, he's across the road from those lawns. He had to, of course, be pushed there because of the rather aggressive climate that was ensuing there. Sipho telling us that students didn't welcome the water cannons, didn't welcome the fire brigade vehicles that came through there. And of course, some violence ensuing, students being injured, not the scenes we would like to have seen. What appeared to have started off as something very, very peaceful has now degenerated into something that I would imagine is quite scary.
It's a serious turn of events. I mean, you could see on Sipho's face, he looked terrified. Speaking of that hostility from students, that, it's completely different to how it was earlier on, because earlier on they were able to speak to them. It seems like we have Griselda on the line. Griselda, what's the latest?
Well, certainly, as you can see, Tabile, students are still throwing stones at the police. What the police have managed to do now is to bring in some barbed wire to try and see if that barbed wire will not prevent them from going to the other side of the Union buildings. Remember, where we're broadcasting from is on the southern lawn. So what police are trying to do is to prevent students from going towards the stairs to the Union buildings. They're still throwing stones. One of the trucks that has been set up here for some of the addresses to take place, that has been completely stoned. The windscreen has been completely stoned. But just to join me now at the moment, who's just walked on to the southern lawns here at the moment, is Mr. Keith Khoza, who is with the African National Congress. Keith, thank you very much for your time. Certainly a turn of events that should not be happening.
Well, the student protests have been very peaceful. They've been very controlled.
Guys, can you wait? Guys, wait. We're in the middle of an interview. They will come. They will come. We're live on television at the moment. Woody, wait, guys. We're live on television at the moment. As you can see here, Devon, they're trying to stop. They're trying to stop us from conducting this, guys. Give us a few seconds, please. Give us a few seconds at this point. Guys, we asked him. Yes. Well, Devon, as you can see, we are going to interview you. We have been. We'll interview you next. We will interview you next. We're going to. We will interview you now. Can you speak? We will interview him now. All right, Devon, as you can see, at this point, as you can see, Devon, the students do not want any interviews to take place here at the moment. We are, the visuals that we're seeing at the moment, he is live from the Union buildings. That interview prevented from taking place. And certainly we will see if we will be able to speak to the African National Congress at a later stage. We'll bring you more visuals at the moment. We'll bring you more visuals at this point to see if we're able to.
All right, we were watching some visuals there. The ANC's Keith Causer prevented from undergoing an interview with the SABC's Griselda Lewis. Students apparently interjecting during that interview, as we've seen, and pleading the fact that they wanted to be interviewed.
And I think one thing that we need to point out that it's looking like the people that were preventing Griselda from speaking aren't even students. I mean, so it seems like this protest has gone way out of hand, where you have people that aren't even students probably also at the Union buildings taking part in this protest.
Yeah, we've seen some political T-shirts there with those people that tried to disrupt that. Again, the cameras being banded all around the place there. Of course, things are very chaotic. That's why you see these sort of rolling and shaky visuals. I would think that those visuals we're seeing at the moment is from the camera that Griselda Lewis was apparently using to interview the ANC's Keith Causer. And at the moment now, things don't seem to be as aggressive as they were a few seconds ago.
And I mean, earlier on speaking to Sipho, he had pointed to the hostility that he faced. So it seems like it's all around the Union buildings where the students are not having any of it anymore. They are agitated at this point in time, and all they want is to hear from that meeting.
All right. Christelle de Toy, SABC Digital News Production Editor. Christelle, thanks indeed for switching places with your colleague. I got to ask you, let's find out now on the front as far as journalists are concerned. How are they covering the past few hours?
I think the face of journalism has changed completely in the last couple of years, and we're very much seeing it with this story. We've seen Griselda and Sipho and them being physically under attack and having to withdraw, but they are still tweeting, they're still sending binds, they're still keeping people updated. In the digital age, of course, anyone can be a citizen journalist, but people are looking towards news organizations to provide context, to provide depth, provide analysis and explain what's going on, because we've seen hundreds and thousands of tweets flying, mostly condemning the violence we are seeing at the Union buildings. And it then comes back to established news organizations and news reporters to place that in context.
Christelle, how big a role has social media played? Because we saw how this started at the beginning with Wits. I mean, the students started the protest on social media, journalists picked it up and they went on the scene.
There was actually towards the beginning of the week a tweet from Rhodes that said the revolution will not be broadcast on television, it will be broadcast on Twitter. And that's very much where especially this age group of people are at. And in the context of news organizations, that is the age group you want to reach. But certainly it's been mobilized via social media, it's been supported via social media. Internationally, it's being supported by social media. We are seeing a shift on social media internationally, though, to condemning this violence. This is certainly not what was promised by the student leaders when they set out on this protest action to the Union buildings.
How bad do you think that would be, very briefly, for the support of this protest?
I think people have had sincere solidarity with the principles behind the protest thus far and the need for universal access to education, but I think it might be dented now.
And there you have it, Devon.
Yeah, that's where we're going to have to leave it, at least for SABC3 viewers. We continue with this rolling coverage on Channel 404.
Stay with us.